this thing that says, "Hi, everybody, welcome back." And I'm going to pick up my coffee because it's been a bit frantic this morning. Okay. It really, I say this quite often. I think it's not so much the caffeine; it's the hot beverage on the throat. Anyway, here we are, and we have a very interesting couple of things to talk about. The first thing is, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. I keep getting these lovely little updates from LinkedIn saying lots of people are looking and talking, and so that's very exciting. So thank you guys. If you're watching from LinkedIn, YouTube, my crew is always there. Instagram, I haven't had time in the last few days to really go in and wander around in there and dust under the corners, right? Good morning, Eddie. Good morning. And of course, Twitch and Facebook. What can I say? Facebook. So I made a decision last week. I was having a conversation with somebody about the evolution of the podcast. And this is my longtime friend, Greg, my longtime, long-suffering. Good morning, Freddie. My longtime, long-suffering friend, Greg, who normally does all my live events with me. And he can't come this time, so we have the two Garys filling in, which is amazing. And anyway, Greg was saying, the thing about your stuff, your videos, he said it's a podcast, except that it's not a podcast, and we need to get you on a platform where they, the platform itself rewards you. And I said, yeah, a little busy just in the moment. We're doing the live show on Sunday, and here it is. He said, no, I know. He said, but I think you need to come at it from an angle. And I said, which angle? Which angle would you like me to come at it from? Because if it's more technical, he said, no, I think you need to call it something. And I said, it's episode thing. He said, no, you need to call it something. And I said, what do you think I should call it? He said, well, I think you should call it the ABCAST. It's not an ABCAST, it's an ABCAST, like a podcast, only better. It's an ABCAST. And I said, you know what? This week is episode 375. Episode 375 is the first official ABCAST. So there's my first announcement this morning, and you'll see it if you're looking later, if you're watching it later. I like the idea of an ABCAST. I think that's different. Anyway, that's the first thing. The second thing is that I'm going to be talking to somebody today with whom I have not spoke in a while. And I got a funny feeling about this. I got a feeling that today is going to be a great day. I got a feeling that I think we're going to get into some good trouble, this person and I. So I just want to put it out there that I'm going into a conversation early this afternoon. And then later this afternoon, I'm going to be on the radio in Massachusetts. How about that? Yeah, my beautiful, fabulous, gorgeous, talented client, Susan, has a radio show on Tuesdays, and she said, why don't you come on the show? And I said, what a good idea. What do we talk about? And she said, I don't know, we'll think of something. So I have no idea about the details. I have no idea how people watch or listen in, because it's been, as I say, a little hectic. But maybe they store them, and maybe we can figure out how to put it on Facebook or something so that we can all listen to that completely unrehearsed. So I'm going to send you some questions. Perfect. Send me the questions. I'm answering them last night at 11 o'clock at night. 'Twas ever thus. Which brings me to ABCAST. Oh, you like it, Eddie? It's fun, isn't it? An ABCAST? ABCAST sounded weird. Anyway, in the world of Vikings and Valkyries and people who dare to dream, there is a phenomenon that can be loosely categorized under the heading, what the hell was that? I find myself saying that often. And everybody leaps in the air and turns in a quick circle to figure out what it was that I saw and caused my alarm. And so because the last 2.5 months have been fraught with, what do you mean the plans are changing again? I decided to talk about that today. I'm in the midst of teaching someone to tap dance. And I don't mean like Fred Astaire. I mean like plans have changed and spin on a dime, give you 9 cents, change kind of thing. And it's been a frenetic and frantic time because if you have not been that, if you have not spent your life dodging things and leaping in the air and landing like you meant to do it. Yes, Susan has Insanity. Susan's got a radio show on Tuesdays, and I'm going to be talking to her. So that'll be fun. And I'll figure out, I just didn't have time to figure out what the logistics are to let you guys know. Because, as I say, a little busy. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning. And you might be able to look it up, Eddie, actually. It's Unity Radio. Unity Radio. And I think it's in Leicester, Massachusetts. I think. Anyway, you can look it up. So the conversation today on ABCAST 375 is this. What do you do when your plans change? And what I mean by that really is that we lean into our expectations and our plans and our processes like we own them. My idea, I thought of it, put it in motion. The minute you breathe life into it, much like young Frankenstein, the minute you breathe life into it, it takes on that life of its own. It's like fame, we can't control what other people think we are. We can lead in and say, I'm this, and they can say, yeah, no, you're not. And then they own it. And that is the nature of life, really. So when our plans change, what I really mean by that is that they no longer resemble our plan. They have become their own plan, loosely mirroring what we had in mind. And when that happens to us, it's a jarring feeling because right up until that little boop boop on the shoulder, guess what? We thought we were driving the bus. And no, apparently, no, we're not. Something else is driving the bus, and we can't quite see who or what it might be. Or if it's one of those self-driving buses that decides to park for no reason. And so when this kind of thing happens, we are discombobulated, really, because first of all, we didn't expect that. We didn't see that coming. That's the first thing. And then secondly, we have this whole hey thing going on, which is the bruised ego. It's the bruised, but I thought it was my plan. And the plan is saying, yeah, catch you later. Get another one. I got stuff to do, places to go and people to see. And so it really is I think discombobulating is the word we're looking for. So I wanted to share with you what I have literally been doing for the last couple of months. And that is because military kid, only child, parents, lovely, but scattered. And then life have altogether have given me an understanding that there is a way to try to brace yourself, prepare yourself, keep your legs bent at the knees and keep your hips flexible and always put your weight on the balls of your feet, because this gives you an opportunity to react, right? So I'm going to tell you the story in a second, but first of all, I'm going to give you the outline, okay? So the thing is, every plan has 3 components. If Carol Hay is watching, she'll say, I knew there'd be 3. But every plan has 3 components. One component is people. One component is purpose. And one component is process. So The people part of the plan is who's involved, what's in it for them. Why do they care, right? People. The purpose is, what is it for? Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it a gift? Is it a situation? What is the purpose of the plan? Why are we invested in it? And the third component is the process. How, we're starting here, and the end game is there, and the plan is, this is the beginning, this is the end, and this is the trajectory of our path. Each of those three things can change. Typically, if one changes, there's a ripple effect. Very rarely do all three things, three components, change separately, independently of each other. However, it has been known to happen. Witness my last couple of months. And so what you do to save your sanity is to focus on those three things rather than, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? When the plan changes, it's not all about you, because it's not your plan anymore. You still own the bus. People still think it's your plan, but it's taken on a life of its own. So in effect, you're like the chauffeur or the caregiver or the garage guy who fixes it after it's driven off a cliff. You are still part of the plan. You just don't have the same exact function. So, and the biggest thing of all is that what we've been going through the last week and a half has been an exercise in muttering, now what? Wait a minute. No, that's not it. Now what? Wait a minute. Is that? It's been a very, very easy slip, downward slope slide that we've been able to catch ourselves before, However, it's really scary when the thing starts to gain a momentum that doesn't look helpful, that doesn't look like it's going to be any good, because then you start panicking and you start saying, well, we can do this and we can do this and we can do that. And then that's not good, just saying. So I want to go back to the fact that we're talking people, purpose, process, right? That is the blueprint. That is the framework that defines a plan. We begin here, we want to end there. And from the begin to the end, there will be people, there will be purpose, there will be process. Somewhere along the way, that changes. What do we do? That's the question, that's the conversation today. And by the way, boy, oh boy, everything, people, purpose, process, got blown out of all proportion in the larger global scheme of things in the last 6 months. And the ripple effect of that is rocking everybody's boat. So that's why, larger than my situation, that's why this question, what do you do when your plans change, is, I think, timely, because we've had the first moment of shock and awe. We've had the first months of maybe it's not going to be, oh wait. And now we are in a momentum. Now we really have to say, okay, no more waiting. We've got to prep. We've got to rethink, recalibrate. Have you ever seen that picture of the car going off a cliff and the GPS is saying recalibrating? That's not this. So the story that I want to tell about plans change goes like this. I had a television series on a network in Canada called CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And It was a great show. Had a wonderful opportunity. I replaced a beautiful, elegant, lovely hostess who was not able to come back to Ottawa for a variety of reasons. And the producers frantically turned around and turned around and turned around and suddenly realized that I was standing there saying, "How you doing?" And they said, "Oh, come in, sit down." And I'm hosting a TV show. Their plans changed. They literally got the notice that their host wasn't coming back. I'm going to say midweek. On the Friday of that week, the associate producer came to see me doing my original first one-woman show. And I had invited everybody from the production community because I wanted somebody to say, "Ooh, let's hire her." And this brilliant, lovely woman raced to the phone when the show was over, called the producer, and she said, "I think we've got a solution. I just watched Abby doing something, and I think we need to really think about her." And at 10 o'clock the next morning, the phone rang, and it was the producer saying, "Hey, we saw your show. Want a TV series?" And I said, "Yeah, does it pay money? Is it legal?" She said, "Yes, come on down. We'll sign a contract." And the show was great. It was wonderful. We had an exciting time. It changed everything in my life instantly. Shazam, wow. And then among the many fabuloso people who came through Ottawa to perform, because Ottawa is the capital of Canada and people come to capital cities to perform, we got a visit from Chris Christopherson, who was in town doing a concert. And we got front row seats to watch him and then interview him. And in the interview, he said, "My friend Ronnie Hawkins is playing somewhere in town, I've heard, in the grapevine. You know where?" And I looked at my crew and and I said, "Yeah, of course." And he said, "Can we go see him?" And I looked at my crew and they went like this. And I said, "Apparently, yeah." So we did. Me not knowing, the associate producer was having litters of kittens all the way there because A, it was a Sunday night. B, we didn't have a permit. And C, Ronnie was playing in a bar where they serve alcohol. And we were going in without a permit. And by the way, Sunday night, triple overtime. So it was amazing. We got exclusive footage because, by the way, Sunday night in a bar, no permit, nobody else. And I'm thinking, except that, okay, kind of over budget, kind of in a problem, kind of what happens if we get fined, kind of. And so the way they took care of it was they syndicated the piece. So, oh dear, oh, what a shame. My little piece, our little piece got shown all over the country. I'm still thinking it's a win-win, really, except that there was a writer's strike. And then on top of the writer's strike, there was a strike about independent talent holding jobs. We're all unionized, but independent talent holding jobs when there are on staff people capable of the job. So the strike lasted for a couple of weeks. And when the strike was over, my show had been canceled. Not just that they replaced me because I had done a bad thing, but they just took the show off the air. So from the grand dame of the capital of Canada, hobnobbing with the knobs, I was looking at a bleak future trying to sell pencils in a cup. It's like yeah. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, who's going to hire me? I was just on television with Chris Christopherson and Ronnie Hawkins. Nobody's going to hire me to do something normal. And there weren't any other shows. So, because it was mid-season. So my friend, Rob, heard about it because everybody was talking about it. He calls me and he said, "So I know this isn't going to be your first choice, but it is a choice." And I said, "Is it legal?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Does it pay money?" And he said, "Well, not like CBC, but yeah." And I said, "I'll take it." And he said, "Do you want to know what it is?" And I said, "Can I just tell me where to go?" He said, "Sure. Come on over to where I work." And I said, "You work at a balloon decorating company, Rob?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "You want me to decorate balloons?" He said, "Sure, but," and he said, "Just come over." So that was when I went over, and they had a clown costume, they had a little girl costume, and they had a chicken suit. And they said, "You can wear any or all of those at any given time. We want you to deliver singing balloon telegrams." I said, "I can't sing." Rob said, "Yes, you can. I've heard you. You can sing Jingle Bells and Happy Birthday. I've heard you." And he said, "We don't get a lot of call for Jingle Bells in the middle of the in the middle of the most of the year, but you're a hit. You're a home run with Happy Birthday." And I said, "Okay." So imagine I am showing up places dressed in whatever I'm dressed in. My face is not covered, and I'm holding these balloons. And the money didn't equate CBC, but I had a little set aside, and it came with a car, so I didn't have to drive mine, and which was kind of on its last legs. And I made do. I just cut back on everything that I possibly could until I could, kind of get my momentum going. And I suddenly realized that the deliveries, which they didn't pay a fortune, but that was sort of like the tip on top of the salary, because I was there and balloons were just, they were the rage, the craze at the point, because it was a different way to decorate for galas and events and parties and whatnot. And this is the capital of Canada. And we do have a lot of tourism, and we do have a lot of events, and we do have a lot of fundraisers and whatnot. So there was a huge call for it. So I was pretty much working almost 7 days a week, decorating plus deliveries. There were times when I showed up doing decorating, still dressed as something, people walking by seeing a chicken dyeing balloons up. and that went on pretty much nonstop for, I think it was 6 months. And I had, I did a whole stand-up routine on I called it Party Animal. I did a whole stand-up routine on it because, my God, you have no idea. You have just, you can't wrap your head around what could possibly go off the rails in a job like that until you have a job like that. So you feature it that I was the belle of the ball, swanning around, with drivers and crew following me everywhere, and the bright lights and the makeup done and the clothing done and the hair done. And then, like, in a week later, I'm a chicken. And I was doing one delivery. Somebody said, "Excuse me, I want to ask you a question." I'm standing there, while everybody's laughing and clapping and everything, because I'd given the poor schmo his balloons. I'm just standing there waiting for the person to come away and pay me. "Excuse me." "Yeah." She said, I don't want to ask an awkward question, but has anybody ever told you you look a lot like Abby Hagyard?" And I said, "Oh, Abby's my sister. She's the one with the talent." And the girl said, "Oh, it must be terrible. Are you twins?" And I said, "No, we just, really resemble each other." And she said, "Anyway, tell Abby I said hi. I love her show." Yay. Get in the car. Ego. My ego is sitting over in the corner of the passenger seat. "Abby, how have you managed to stay humble for so many years?" So when we look at that story, owning and operating a business, I wasn't even owning the business. That's the thing. Well, good morning, Anna. Dissector of plan. Snake Eyes is driving the bus. Snake Eyes is not driving the bus. That's the problem. Snake Eyes isn't driving the bus. We don't know who is driving the bus. That's the problem, Eddie. When the plan takes on a life of its own, the driver is invisible. So my illustration is that two mints in one, three mints in one, right? First of all, an opportunity to score an exclusive at the last possible minute. Did we pull it off? Yes. Second, suddenly standing on one leg while there's a strike on. Third, putting that other leg down, because when the strike ends, your show is over. And then fourth, happy birthday to you, rock, not my finest moment, not my finest moment. But what we can see when we talk about this, I have the notes, what we can talk about in terms of that was many plans in a ripple effect, ping, foop, dum, 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 like a domino. And in each one, you picture me running to keep away from the crashing domino, completely crushing me to death, like just seeing the shoes of the Wicked Witch of the West under the house, right? So in every chapter of that little adventure, well, hello, Miss Susan. We've been talking about you. In every chapter of that adventure, that change plan, every chapter, there was a brief moment to reset, to brace for the next. Each one was going to be people, purpose, or process. And so how you stay sane, I was bragging, Susan. I just said a couple of minutes ago that I'm going to be on radio with you this afternoon. Oh, here you are, Susan. Eddie was curious. Can you put the link how people can just go and participate in this ad hoc train wreck we're creating? Just if you type it in the comments, then if they want to watch us this afternoon, because we have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anyway, back to the point of this conversation, which is changes of plans. In the first situation, the purpose changed. In the first situation with Chris Christopherson, the purpose changed. The purpose going to the event where he was performing was to watch his show, be front row, and then talk to him on camera afterwards. The purpose was to give a great segment to our viewers. The purpose was to fill the airtime that CBC is allotted to use. How we did that was by capitalizing on the person and the pre-existing process. We're going to go to a place where there's a concert. I'm going to sit there. We didn't have to set up a concert. We didn't have to find me a singer to watch an interview. That was all taken care of. So we had two ingredients in the plan, and all we had to do, all our crew, our producer had to do, was come up with the purpose. And the purpose was, just don't mess up, really. Most of my life. So what do you want me to do? Just don't mess up. Could I have more details on the before that so I know what not to mess up? So in going to the other concert, again, purpose, because we know it's another concert. We know it's another singer. We know it's another venue, all of which is in place. We didn't have to worry about one or three. We were just focused on purpose. When the strike happened, and I'm in limbo, again, purpose. What am I doing? What am I doing now while what I was doing isn't happening? And then canceled show. Now it's all three. What do I do? What is my purpose? How do I get there? I had no clue. All three at the same time. Whamada, whamada, whamada. Phone rings. It's Rob. Hey. And beggars can't be choosers. And so I marched over to their shop and I said, here I am. And they said, here's your costumes. Here's your balloons. Here's your pig pipe. Happy birthday. So all of a sudden, what we are really dealing with when I ask you the question, what do you do when your plans change, is really about readiness instead of resistance. Ego panics, survivor, full steam ahead. Readiness is not, oh my God, what do I do? React, react, react. Survivor says, where's the door? Where's my weapon? Where's my end game? You're in response mode. Readiness is response mode. Reaction, resistance is ego-driven fear. What happens if? What if? What if? What if? And so the conversation I've been having closer and closer to the talks that we're going to be doing, the training that we're going to be doing. And actually, Susan and I have been discussing a way for us to blend this cross-border wellness meets peace of mind kind of thing going on. And what I've actually coined it. I looked it up. It didn't exist. I coined it. What I have come up with is a concept that sounds like this. There comes a time in our lives when we have to channel, when we have to take ownership of our inner lion or lioness. We are the kings and queens of the jungle. There comes a point when we have to take ownership and say, that's enough, or let's go. When we know that there is a line in the sand, it could be the starting line, it could be the finish line, it could be the heart-shaped line to remove the toxic delayers from us, remove the barnacle buddies from us, because all they do is create drag and distraction. The lion effect is recognizing that we have to know how to be ready. Readiness is the opposite of resistance. Readiness is our internal vision of who we are and what we're capable of. Resistance is the other side of the lion effect, and that is the jackal effect. Lions are always surrounded by jackals. Jackals nip at their toes. They try to steal their food, generally a nuisance. Not in the jackal family, they're very happy together, but when they encroach on the lion territory, the lion has two options. One is to just ignore them because they're small, they're like flies, or suddenly realize now they become a nuisance. Now they are a distraction. Now it's starting to be toxic. Now I am annoyed. And that is when we channel the inner lion who stands up and says, no. And the lion, the jackals say, make me. And the lion says, you sure you want me to do that? Yeah, there's more of us than you. Lion says, all right, brace yourselves. And the lions win. The lions win. Why? They're lions. So the jackal effect. We have four jackals, essentially. We have the ego jackals. And the ego jackals are arrogant and self-absorbed, focused out, greed, selfishness. We have overwhelmed jackal. The overwhelmed jackal is the one who is suffering burnout, who has done too much, tried too hard, has no reserves left, and is on the verge of complete meltdown. And underlying all of that is not only the exhaustion, and the confusion, but there is also depression and brain fog. So you have la-di-da-di-da, this is my good side and this is my other good side. That's the ego jackal. The overwhelmed jackal is the one from whom all the stuffing has been pulled out and they're just done. They couldn't show up if they tried. Right? The next jackal is the fear-based jackal, the angry rage, cage, panic, screaming, rushing. That's the one that can't stay focused on the win. That's the one that can pull the lion away from its position in the tribe. And the fourth jackal is the trauma and grief. When something happens so cataclysmic that there is no part of us that was prepared to experience it, process it, or work through it in any way. Those are the four jackals that get in our way. Those are the four jackals. So you picture the pride of lions coming toward you. You picture the pride of lions and you see these jackals in the corner. And how we, as Freddie said, come back stronger. How we deal with them is not by leaping up suddenly and taking them on. I mean, we can, but that's the hard way. That's the hard work. And Eddie and I were going through this process a few short months ago because he was involved in a small business, and basically it was a small business full of jackals, and they were invisible, so you kept tripping over them. There were baggage all over everywhere you tried to go and do and be. And so I walked him through how to keep clear and how to just stay on his trajectory, because it's so easy to get sucked in, so easy to get caught up in the spin. Susan and I have a term for it. We call it the cheese doodles, the empty cheese doodle effect, right? Because cheese doodles taste like styrofoam cups, right? Charming. There's a texture of a styrofoam cup, chemical taste, and then you have all of this powder all over your hands for about 11 years. Let's do that again. Oh yeah, and no nutritional value whatsoever. None, zero. Styrofoam. And so when we look at how this happens, you say, how could this happen? How could a lion get overwhelmed by a jackal? And the answer is the lion wasn't paying attention. The lion was caught up in something else. It was a hot day. He didn't feel like moving. He wasn't ready. He had relaxed his vigilance. He had climbed out of the seat, the driver's seat of the bus. And the lion had wandered over to sit on a park bench in the shade. And the jackals were hijacking his ride. How we deal with that takes me to a sports metaphor. I have a really, really good friend named Liam McGuire. Hey, Liam. And he is a world-class data trivia expert on National Hockey League stats, players, events, ground-shaking experiences. He knows them all. He's amazing. And we were having a conversation one night. I took him over to this club that I belong to. And I said, I want you to tell me what you see. And he said, oh yeah, I see what you wanted me to look at. Yeah, sure. And then when we left, I said, so what was I looking at? And he said, you were looking at a lot of people who have achieved a pinnacle of success that very few people reach. And for many, many people who do that, just like the NHLers, first string, it's easy to forget that the only way you got there is the same as the only way you stay there. You got to train to maintain. You got to show up every day and lean in every day to make sure you're sharp. Because not only are the jackals watching, but there are young lions on their way up. And they're looking at you. And if you're not ready to just step aside, you got to be sharper than they are. And they're younger than you. So when you go to a place where there are people who have made it, there are many who don't think they have anything more they need to do than just. And then all of a sudden, this is what I had seen, all of a sudden, part of them gets a feeling that everything isn't quite what it should be. All of a sudden, they get this feeling that something feels off. And you can see it in their eyes. And what they don't realize is that the thing that's off is them. They're no longer showing up on the balls of their feet. They're no longer working it out in the gym. They're no longer studying stuff and looking stuff up and having mastermind brainstorming conversations with their peers. I got it covered. Until they don't. And then what do they do? It's a now what moment. And when you look at the scenario that has happened to us, imagine if you were training to maintain. Imagine if you were training to maintain your place in the community, your presence at events, your name and your face out there because you're famous. And all of a sudden, all the events were canceled. The gym was closed for construction, repairs, upgrades. There was nowhere to train, nowhere to polish and perfect, nowhere to schmooze. If you didn't have your own equipment, if you didn't have your own strategy on how to stay sharp and how to go and use a different platform and a different set of vehicles and a different set of tools, you'd be on sabbatical. And if you were on sabbatical for a few weeks, if you took a year off, you'd have to get your momentum back. What on earth would you do if in that sabbatical year your business closed, downsized, your community has suffered a disaster, you lost people in your family, you like tsunami? What would we do? Well, I'll tell you what we did. It wasn't a tsunami. It was called the pandemic. And we didn't see it coming. And we weren't sure when it arrived. But all of a sudden, out of the clear blue of the western sky, we're not going anywhere. We're not doing things the way we used to do them. There is no gym. There is no, how you doing? There is no reason to update the press conference, press release, press scrum. Nobody's coming. You can't get a buy on your smile when you're wearing a mask. And it didn't just take a couple of weeks, and it didn't just take a year sabbatical. It was 3. And then it was over. And everybody was saying, ollie, ollie, and free, come on back. And all the people who planned fully with full intention to come back got on their bicycles and fell over because they'd forgotten how to ride them. They got behind the wheel of the bus and they popped the clutch and they stalled the engine because they'd forgotten how to drive one. And the metaphor that I really love, because my dad was Air Force, is the stall. I'm not talking about procrastinating, although I kind of am. I'm talking about when your aircraft goes up in two ways that are a mistake. One is too sharp an ascent, and the other is too slow. When it's too sharp, you can't get lift under the wings. You can't get lift under the wings. When it's too slow, you can't get lift under the wings. If you don't have lift under the wings, what you have is a paperweight, because you need the lift in order to defy gravity. And so what happens is the plane goes brace for impact. So my dad used to say to me about every 15 minutes when I was a child, stop stalling. Stop procrastinating. Stop coming up with excuses. It's not an excuse. Yes, it is. You're fine. Not fine. Okay, you're fine enough. Get going. He was teaching me two important things. He was teaching me the necessity, the essential power of attack and momentum, direction, purpose, drive, passion. He was teaching me that stalling kills it all. When we stall, when we procrastinate, when we tell each other, ourselves, you're no good, you never were, you might as well stay under your bed, you're just like your uncle. That's externally driven. That's a loop tape that we have. That's a story we were told or we invent for ourselves, and we play it in our heads so loud we can't hear anything else. Because the primitive brain says, I don't know, there's probably a tiger out there. I'll just stay here. Except that it's not the Serengeti. I'm on the 15th floor of an apartment building in the capital city of Canada. There are no tigers in the hallway. Always down there. There's no tigers. Guaranteed. That's because the whole hallway is full of stuff for the live show we're doing Sunday. There's no room for tigers. So this is what I wanted to say to you today, and I'm going to be focusing on it in the fun ways that I do, with the stories and the suggestions and the directions and the nudges, is that we are amazing. All the woulda, coulda, shouldas that we allow ourselves to get distracted by are imaginary. Because if they were real, they would have happened, and they didn't. Things don't change. People change things. A thing is a thing. It sits there. A rock is a thing. Rocks don't change. External things, external events driven change the rock. We change the rock. If we are ready. So we have a 3R thing going on here. Readiness is in the middle. Resistance is on one side. Resilience is on the other. And we spend every waking and sleeping minute of our lives choosing which one we want, which life we want, which outcome we want. What do you do when your plans change? Do you do anything at all? If you don't, that's resistance. If you do, that's resilience. If you do nothing, you're not ready. It doesn't excite you. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't make you curious. It doesn't make you wonder. It doesn't get you excited. Then you might as well stay under the bed. When plans change and become different plans, there's always a plan. We get to choose. And the plan has 3 components: people, purpose, process. We get to look and see which part is the one driving the bus. We get to decide how we handle the people, how we adapt the purpose, how we refine the process. And when we make that decision, the plan becomes ours again. When we stand there and we say, this, and this, we are the lion, and we have handed the jackals their hats. There's a great Christopher Walken bit that this is actually based on. It's a monologue he has in a movie called The Pool Hall Junkies. And if you watch it, if you go on YouTube and you find it and you watch it, you can actually just Google Christopher Walken lion speech. It'll pop up. And he says exactly what I've said, but in his voice with his, intonations. And it's true. At the end of his speech, he says this brilliant thing. It's so cool. He says, it's too late to be afraid. It's time to kill. It's time to seize the day. It's time to seize the day and run like the wind. There's no time to be afraid. And it's powerful. A, it's Christopher Walken. It's entertaining. It's a great movie. B, he's talking to us the way I'm talking to you. And that scriptwriter nailed it. We can opt in or we can opt out. Always up to us. Always up to us to say, what's over there? When my life as I knew it 2 weeks ago hit a wall and fell down, there were people saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm already standing up saying, okay, all right, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do right now that changes something and gives me back some power? What can I do right in this moment that is going to give me what I need to take that breath and redirect, repurpose? And the people around me were saying, I don't know how you do that. I said, well, stop wondering how I do it and start doing it with me, because we don't have time for the discussion. Let's go. And we did. And we have been marching and thinking and brainstorming, and I've been writing, and we have created viable alternative paths to get to the finish line. And oh, by the way, it happened right before we're doing a live show. Gah! So there's juggling going on. And the more you juggle, the gooder you get. So what I want to leave with you today, because I have something amazing for Thursday that you're going to love, you're just going to love. What I leave you with today is this. We are all podcasting. We are all telling the world our story every day. The way we show up, the way we engage, the way we respond with gratitude, the way we take the deep breath, pause, recalibrate, reset, relaunch. That's our podcast. And we have a huge following. It's not people are watching. It's we have followers saying, oh, I wonder what happens next. There's an ABCAST. There's a Freddie cast. There's an Eddie cast, right? There's a Susan cast. There's a Rhea cast. There's an Amber cast. We all have a podcast that we are broadcasting every day. And we get to choose the subject. We get to choose the content. And we get to choose the delivery. And when I just said content, broadcast, delivery, I just said people, purpose, process, didn't I? Everything is people, purpose, and process. And it is our bus. We own it. And if you don't like the way whoever's sitting in the seat is driving it, thank them for their service. Love them from afar. Drop them off at the curb. Because it's our bus. It's our ride. You might as well love it, because it's why we're here. It's why we're here. So, ABCAST, first ABCAST 375. Perfect. I'm so excited about that. I think it's really fun. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this. The live event Sunday that I'm all spun out of shape getting ready for is the live celebration book launch at my booth. Not book launch, book shoot, sorry, the book shoot. People coming to the booth, we're taking their pictures, we're getting their definition of what it means to be unforgettable. We're taking their pre-order for the book so that they're going to get it at the author's price. We're going to do it all day long. It's going to be amazing. And for everybody who can't come, Eddie and I were talking about this, for everybody who can't come, you can email it. We can do it virtually. You can still be in the book. And the other two things about the book that are fabulous, we are celebrating two equally unforgettable things. One is the life of Brian Lithell, who was a fixture in the city of Ottawa, who rose above challenges like nobody I've ever seen. And we lost him this year. And he loved coming to these fan events. So we're going to dedicate the book to him when we publish it. And the other is that the book launch date is November 16th this year. Well, I realized suddenly that November 18th was Leslie's birthday. And this year he would have been 101. So we're going to celebrate among the people coming to FanaticCon. And I know Lance is thrilled. Lance, and also Lance Moran, who runs FanaticCon. We're going to celebrate the Prevert family in the book. I have the pictures from the Fame book. Billy's got other pictures of Les and I and our various characters together. So you guys, when you have your picture in this first ever 20th anniversary, We Are the Unforgettables collection, you're going to be on pages with Leslie and Christine McGlade and Lisa Ruddy and Kevin Kubicheski and Doug and all the kids, Chris, Alistair, everybody. And if that isn't unforgettable, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans of all shapes and sizes, I don't know what is. Okay? So you can get in touch with me about that. Not this week, a little busy, but right away first next week, I'm going to start pulling in all the people who want to have their pictures in the book and just can't be there. All right? So with all that said, you know the drill. Be good to you. You deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones, because they deserve it too. All right? Channel your inner lion. Kick those jackals to the curb. And